so to higher the chance to win. So that itself is almost around 20 to 30%. Can you imagine how much the click fraud could be? But again, what is fraud? Um, uh, when I was in a survey, when client try to get as much as conversion, they tend to spam everybody, right? They want to get the maximum reach, the maximum impression.
And that filters through right from client to agency to media owners as well. Is that true? Is that not true? And why have we not discussed this in open with our clients on a day-to-day level? I think that's the big question, Bliss Media as well. So for example, if 3 of you were running a plan and the agency is saying, all of you need to deliver a CTR of this percentage or this many clicks, 3 of you on that plan, and you're seeing fraud clicks come through every now and then, or accidental clicks, which you know are drop-offs, the agency is looking at all 3 plans and essentially reporting it back to the client. Is the agency going to go back to the client and say, sorry, Mr. Client, just to let you know, 70% of these clicks were all actually not real clicks? Is that conversation happening today in the marketplace? I don't think so. I think that's the biggest issue that we're facing at this current point. Because of that, the metric of click is still very much alive. People are still using that metric of click in market. And essentially also because of that, people are not seeing the value in things such as brand safety technology or white lists of websites. Because, I mean, you go back to the example of Google again. I think we did quite a bit of research essentially looking at inventory, source of publishers. And the biggest problem that we have is the internet space is so big out there. And you've got very, very, very small publishers, obviously from the bedrooms or whatsoever, trying to generate revenue. So that equates to putting 15 ads on one particular page, or when you're watching a video, an ad where you want to close it, but essentially end up clicking on it. You're getting so much of this form of inventory, and the internet is so huge, even for Google, even for anyone, it's almost impossible to avoid. It's almost impossible to get rid of all this inventory. So I agree on the publishers should take a standpoint on it, but does that mean brand safety technology? Does that mean whitelists? What is the way forward, and who's going to have this conversation with clients? How do we educate the clients? Who can make this change is what I want to hear from you guys. So how do we change from, we all know that clicks do not equate to anything, 70% drop-offs, things like that, but how are we going to change this is what I want to hear from you guys.
The driving that traffic, and that's that you're have to do. But if we put in traffic and we track all the way through that journey, then it boils down to far more than it's success campaign, whether it's a conversion, whether it's engagement, whatever that is. Whose role is this? I think it's probably the agency's role to give best practice advice to the client, to explain that fine, if you're not wanting to put tracking in, then we're just going to optimise the clicks. There's going to be a level of fraud. We can't really measure it. However, if this is going to be a shampoo campaign, we want X video views or whatever that is, whatever the engagement is, then you need to put tracking all the way through so we can optimise through that success criteria. So I think probably the role of the agency is that it's an education process, right, to move wherever it's comfortable with to.
Yep. I mean, I think it's the quantity versus quality conversation. So the other problem that we have in Asia, in essence, is whenever even we talk about these things, even
Yes, let's say, and I think that's honesty should be part of it. And I mean, like, okay, and if you want to get this, and then you should be driving this amount of clicks, which essentially comes down only like 2 or 3%, which I believe is 2 or 3%.
Some industry, partially the industry got into start the education piece, and then the agencies can pick that up and reinforce it. So I think potentially it's less risky for an agency. You've got the industry body saying it, and then you go into the tools to solve the problem.
Yep.
As opposed to 70% of your money's not going where you think it is.
Yep.
This is on the learning on the back of some of the things that I've seen happen in a lot of different markets, and I think in this part of the world we are still not too concerned about the content that we run on. So I'm not talking about porn, I'm not talking about really, really, really bad, terrible, dodgy content, but I'm talking more in essence of pirated content. And I think this brings us to another discussion, which essentially pirated content seems to be supported a lot today in this region. So if you take Indonesia, you take Vietnam, there are a lot of video sharing sites that essentially you can stream your Game of Thrones, for example. You see a lot of pre-roll ads running on that. And essentially this has been the stumbling block of why video hasn't grown phenomenally in market as well. So the fact that, once again, who draws that line of, is this content dubious, is this content legit, is this content where my brand should or should not appear?
And I saw it about pirated content, video being run through exchanges, running pre-rolls and stuff like that. So it's almost down to the buying mechanism and how to compare the So you can have exchanges, which are great, but then it's having the whitelist within the exchange. It's then vetting within vetting, which means we have to change our whole entire thinking on how we approach the market. It's not, I think from our point of view, when we first came to market, we kind of plug-and-play solution, but that solution is just not scalable.
Sort of fundamental business, right? You understand the product that you're buying before you invest in a product, regardless of what it is. You find something blind, where you don't actually understand what you're buying, it puts you in a very dangerous position. And it's, I think the whole ecosystem is trying to get better at doing that. And if in certain markets there's not enough inventory that's safe, and they've got a product that somebody wants to buy, it's simple as that. So
For the organisation that you work for to move away from this, post this discussion. So we know brand safety is a concern, pirated content is a concern, clicks, 70% of them are dropping off. It's a media agency goes through it. So it's a publisher, it's a media agency. What are you guys going to do to change this? But alongside that, we also got to think and remember that if $10,000 is being waved out there as a publisher, you do need to take it. You do want to take it. Everyone's got revenue targets before, essentially. So what's the takeaway? What is the next implementation step? And from that, I'd like to hear from yourself. Do you think it's...
Okay, then we should deliver this X amount of money, which is equals to this amount of TV reach. And that's what I want to know actually. Is that going to grow digital in Indonesia? I don't know.
And we also have the internal digital team. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the challenge right now for the digital is about how digital can make room for the business solution. You know what? Because actually, if we are comparing between TV and digital today in Indonesia, it is still, a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think the mindset has to change firstly of click-through rates, for example. A high click-through rate does not mean a successful campaign. That's what clients need to understand firstly. So if 3 publishers are running on the same plan, the lowest click-through rate might be the best campaign. I think that mindset has to change for a start. Once we look at that, then we need to start tracking and measuring all the way to the end. That's very, very important as well. The other element that comes into play is brand safety technology. I think today brand safety technology is rife in market. There's a lot of brand safety technology that's available to make sure you're not running on dubious content. So all this happens in obviously sort of real time, where if the word porn appears in that particular page, your ad will not appear on that site. A publisher can actually see that report and know that that wasn't an article where the ad should have appeared for the brand. And talking about brand safety is essentially very, very interesting, because one is your click-through rates are low. Secondly, are clients willing to pay for brand safety technology? That's the second part. So essentially for your CPM cost that was, for example, 50 cents or $1 or $5, now you got to top up another 10%. So for ad tracking, ad serving, measurement, now you got to top up another 10-15% for brand safety again. So essentially are advertisers willing to pay that new fee that's going to be implemented?
And we are the biggest brand in water in Indonesia, and just below 1%. But I don't think it's right. I don't know what the right measurement. Do you guys know what to do? Because when we look at the ATP tracking and said that it's 0.75% knows about my brand through digital or through, and then this TV is like 99%. But then again, when we look at each of the campaign and says, let's say my video is about, we have 1.7 million of Facebook fans, and then 10 millions of views on YouTube. But when you count all of that, and every campaign we had a tracking on clicks and whatever, I think it's more of that. But I don't know what measurement should I use about. Essentially, if I want to know sources of awareness,
the agency, the digital agency should be able to do funneling, the measuring with the funneling, looking at the click-through rates with this number of click-through rates, what's actually the at the end what's the end product, and what's causing, is it the click-through, or is it the quality of the website itself? So it's the roles of media agency, digital agency, the client, and we also look at we have to look at the objective of the campaign itself. I know some of my clients, they at the end eventually, hey, we got this number of click throughs, but how come only people that buy stuff is only like 2 or 3, so eventually they will know that click-through rate doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't goes to the end funnel.
So there's the only way you can measure awareness in digital versus traditional is whereby you start from very small brands today, and I think that'll be a fair justification. Otherwise, majority of people will already know Aqua, and obviously whether they come from TV or digital is going to be very, very biased. So let's say Aqua is a new brand. Okay, an awareness for a digital campaign, you will look impressions, clicks, CTR, landing page visits, time spent on site. So this define awareness. Is it the awareness of just Aqua as a brand, or Aqua as the supplier of clean water to Indonesia, for instance? From the banner ad itself, can you get all entire message of that? In a video ad, maybe you can communicate that. In a 50-seconder, 30-seconder, maybe you can communicate, okay, Aqua, for instance, the best clean water in Indonesia, for example. But if let's say you're on a banner ad, there's only so much you can say, therefore you're trying to drive people to a certain microsite or a website, tell them more about Aqua water, right?
This is all about this is what's the USP of this product, and essentially even if you just skip it, get the right message and I think this area is still questionable. This is the area where the ground comes into play. You need a lot more sort of IVs in the world with console tracking, for example. Audiences need to be done. Two words where we're going to. Essentially the reason being, if you think about TV, whenever we're buying TV in, as you said, how great TV works. The second part of it is, it doesn't take one person, it takes all of us together in this group, and everyone else that we know in this industry or marketplace essentially say, I do not want my ads to run on pirated content. That's the only way we can grow. Digital video publishers are going to be able to grow. The local publishers are going to get better video content on the sites. They're going to be able to promote video advertising more, and you're going to get that ability to get an incremental reach in a cost-efficient manner on digital as well. Thirdly, use the brand safety technology. So brand safety technology should be used in all our campaigns. Viewability of ads being below the fold, for example, all this should be shrugged off. I mean, it's fantastic. I've seen a few brands globally who have actually gone up to say, we as a brand are going to use brand safety technology on every single campaign that we run. Very few brands have done this, but this is a starting point. So how the IAB can empower that? How can we, as an agency group, WPP within all its agencies, start doing that and say, we're going out to market to say every single digital campaign that we run as a Propel agency or a WPP agency, we're going to do brand safety technology. And we shouldn't derive the market by price, because we'll never go digital. We continue deriving price point as why we pick the media vendor. As a client, as an agency, and even as a publisher, digital will just continue being very, very small. It will never go to what we want it to be, 15 to 20%. It's impossible to do it because you buy $50,000 worth of clicks to grow the entire marketplace. It's very, very much. Anyone else have anything to add on?
Sorry, let's add on one more point about click-through rates. So let's just do a very quick survey over here. If all of you, there are about 20 of us, saw an ad on, let's say, a Kompas or a Detik, whatever, that says promotion AirAsia Jogja to Bangkok, 1.5 million rupiah. How many of you actually click on the ad? Right? But how many of you are actually aware about the promotion after you saw it?
right? So that's the point about it. So low CTRs, even at 0.05, 0.06, right? People do not click on it, but they're still aware about it. So how do we verify that they actually got the message from the brand to the consumer? Visits. Because eventually after, you can't click on the ad because you can't really consider at this moment. You need to think about it. You're not an impulse buyer for airline tickets. You have to go 2 days later, you're going to say, okay, got to to Bangkok, not a bad idea. Are you going to go back to the Compass Center to look for the ad, to click on it? You're not. You're going to go to Google, make a search. You're going to go to www.airasia.com and make a purchase. Should the media agency nor the vendor be credited for the ad space with the zero CPR? It's not fair. So we need to measure what we call post-impression visit or post-impression conversion, whereby even though there's a way to actually cookie the user that they have seen the ad, CPID 1, 2, 3, 4, seen the ad, but 2 days later eventually came to your website, made a conversion, made a visit. So that's one thing we should actually be very, very careful as agencies or as brands or as vendors to help educate everybody in this industry that CPR can be measured, but shouldn't be the only measure.
Third-party ad serving, for example, tracking and third-party ad serving are the first steps in getting the entire industry standardized in this area. So if we can take that and all drive towards that first starting point, I think then we'll get to things like brand safety being implemented on every campaign, moving away from fixed and all the other elements of it. But third-party ad serving and ad tracking, I think, is the first step that we all need to take on. That's it. Thank you very much, guys. It's a good session. Thank you. Everybody, thank you for joining our discussion. My name is Krishna and I work for George. So, just a short introduction. I started my career off in an FMCG company called Unilever, together with my friend Prami and I think some other ex-Unileverian here as well, especially my seniors here. Then after Unilever, I went to TV broadcast company, MTV Networks, and then I moved to telco, and then I ended up in Google. So I had a pretty long experience in marketing, and this is the topic that we would like to discuss here today, together with my fellow colleague Rami and Charlotte as well. So we have 3 Googlers that can help you find the answers to your questions on anything related to YouTube. So the first thing that I would like to ask this particular group, if any of you had ever done a word of mouth campaign. Show of hands, if anybody here had created a word of mouth campaign, social media campaign, or a groundswell campaign. Nobody? Well, the social media, some hashtag stuff, you've done stuff, right? Word of mouth, saying that you start something and people will share about it online and stuff. Anybody try to do that? Okay, so every time we started a word of mouth campaign, there were some assumptions or some truths that we thought we need to have ABC so that the viral happens, right? It cannot be hard sell, is one of them, right? It cannot be branded, or else people will not share, or it will not become viral if it's branded, right? Or another truth would be, it has to be authentic. It has to be like some real user or real person started it and somebody picked it up, right? It cannot be artificial, right? Those are all the assumptions that we took by attempting a word of mouth campaign, right? So the first discussion point here is that on YouTube, the opposite is the case, right? On YouTube, the users expect to have great advertising and great content on YouTube, alright? So, on YouTube, of course the main core audience of YouTube, right? I mean, of course YouTube is available for everybody, but the main core audience is, the connected young urban people, right? Multiple devices, on their mobile, etc., etc. Those consumers, or those users, 84% use YouTube as their first site when they look for great video content. Okay, so that's one number. The other thing is that out of those, critical or
skeptic or jaded youth, actually 58% of them, right, they view YouTube as having great advertising. So brands that advertising on YouTube, right, they have great creative and they look for it, right? And that's startling. Usually they just, oh, advertising is all bad, but it's not. Also, when we did our research in Indonesia, 49%, right? 49% of the youth appreciate a brand if the brand give them an option to skip their ads or not. They actually appreciate it. So if a brand and a piece of advertising is not relevant to me and I choose to skip it, I still have a good perception for that brand because that brand actually gave me the choice, right? So it's basically indirect marketing, right? Although the message does not connect with me, the brand I appreciate for giving me that choice. 49%. Now, and a startling huge percentage, and this, we were surprised when we saw that data as well. If the user choose to look at the advertising all the way till the end, so not skip and see it all the way till the end, a whopping 29% has a propensity to purchase that brand or to purchase that particular product. 29% higher motivation scores if somebody actually choose to watch your communication all the way till the end, right? So the main key takeout here first is, and then expect it to perform well because of that format and different stuff as well, right? So we have something in YouTube called a leaderboard where we analyze all the great advertisers on YouTube and then we rank them between how much are their paid views and how much are their organic views and what are successful and stuff, right? So in every country we have those leaderboards. And the average, guess how many percent is longer form? The vast majority is longer form. The average duration of a great ad on YouTube is actually 121 seconds, right? Those ads that are on average 121, right? 70% of the ads that are appearing on the leaderboard is the duration of 121%. So it means longer content, longer format content works better on YouTube. This creates a whole new creative canvas that creative people can work on, right? You are no longer limited to the 30-second format, right? That is so TV based. But on YouTube, you can liberate your creative thinking, right? And create a whole new canvas, right? For a longer format, right? So that's the first basically learning that we have, right? Longer content works better, to be more creative there. The second learning that we had is you need to connect on an emotional level, right? You've seen all great ads like the beauty sketches, the call for ads, etc. They're all long format and you connect emotionally, right? So in our analysis, what are the emotional, we did an emotional diagnosis, right? What makes an ad, well, after seeing the ad, what makes you want to share the ad everywhere, like on Facebook, on Twitter, on Google+, everywhere, right? So the emotional diagnosis is that the majority of those ads is surprising, it's inspiring, and it's exciting. Those are the three emotional cues based on our learning. So if the advertising is a bit longer, so you create a great story, right? Be surprising, right? The beauty sketch is super surprising, right? The payoff is when you have women have different perception of themselves and other people, and it's awful, so it's surprising, exciting, and it's also inspiring for them as well, right? So those are the second learnings that we had for YouTube analytics.
And in YouTube analytics, it's either you as a brand owner can own that without interference of Google, or you can ask us to also becoming your administrator. So we are very transparent in that.
Okay, in our analytics, you can see, right, on the average time of those ads on the leaderboard is 121 seconds.
Why is it because those are viral videos
Because they were made for YouTube videos, right? It's not TV ads being uploaded. They made it specifically for the digital environment, right? So then everything is shareable, and people can take their time and watch it all the way to the end because the story is engaging.
So it's not like a generic ad, it's more of a storyline viral ad.
Yeah, actually there is one case study, coming from Magnum. So Magnum Mini is launching last year.
It's very involving, right? So there's also we use different sort of traditional TV advertising and internet or YouTube or online advertising is that you can get so much more deeper involvement, right? From a video, right? Because it tends stuff to be reciprocal, right? It's a two-way kind of a street. So when we spoke about the emotional cues, surprising, exciting, and inspiring, we also have involvement diagnosis. Like what are the involvement cues to make, right? So those are the and we analyze. There's three things also to create